Alright, I wanted to talk about this before I decide to go to bed. But it just brings my attention where there's this whole
This world
huge
needs me.
misinformation that we have that's, made it to the public, you know, and I'm only using Injustice gameplay because, well, I'm in a huge fighting game mode. But anyways, besides that, like the lies about Superman not doing good, that all these execs, these are losing their mind and crashing out over failed numbers. I feel like that's just a lie. Because the only thing I know, not just from me watching the movie itself, but really look at the reports and stuff, you know. And I'm not just only talking about Rotten Tomatoes either. I'm talking about just anything else as well. These grifters are lying. Now, it's not good. I'll be honest. Superhero and comic book movies aren't doing as good as they used to, like with the Zack Snyder stuff and the with the Infinity War saga and everything before it. True, okay, fine, whatever you want to say, but I just feel like it's this fear of everything is so woke that people lie to themselves and make their opinions based off of what other people has told them without even doing no research and anything. Fantastic Four is a good example of it being misrepresented by these grifters, by people like the Quartering or Neurotic and stuff like that. I'm not gonna lie, and I'm not gonna be that kind of person where I'm gonna lie about stuff I used to watch these guys before and had some of the same opinions. I used to have that. I'm not going to lie to myself and say that I have not partaken in their content. Albeit, the only thing that, let's be honest, we can honestly agree with unified is that the Star Wars sequels were just not it. I wouldn't say they were bad movies, they just weren't good. But going back to Superman Fantastic Four, Fantastic Four was actually a movie based on the comics. It even had the styles, the Jack Kirby style, 60s futuristic vibe. Not to mention, no, I'm not trying to spoil anything, but Galactus was Galactus, okay? He was actually what Galactus should have been. Like, it's like they took Galactus from the comics, and did it completely right. Like we came far away from the original Fantastic Four movies where Galactus was a cloud before. No, this is the real Galactus. This is the real one. And I know there's people saying, well, is Silver Surfer a female? Why is Silver Surfer? But you gotta remember, the original Silver Surfer died in the comics, and they're pulling that story out. So instead, the wife of the original Silver Surfer had to take over just for her world to be spared. So Julia Gardner's portrayal was good, and it did not break any comic continuity because Silver Surfer had a wife. In fact, she's the next Silver Surfer right after him. And in some comics, Silver Surfer outright betrays Galactus or dies, and he's even had other heralds before where Galactus had to deal with one because one of them was just terrible. But either way, depending on which comics you're reading, either way, yes, there was a female Silver Surfer. It was the wife of Shelobah, which is the male Silver Surfer. So they just did a different turn with this. So it was not no modern day politics, okay? And matter of fact, there was no politics at all brought up with Fantastic Four at all. None. Okay, they might be a little bit on the nose on Superman when it comes to the Israel versus Palestine thing. just a little bit, but not enough that it ruined the movie at all. I think, again, this could be for anything. This could be for anything. Not to mention, comic books itself actually are political in nature. If you really read X-Men, X-Men is based off the civil rights movement. It is based off people who had it rough because of the civil rights movement. You know, that's what the X-Men were based, and gay people. And in fact, even in the movie where, let's see, Bobby, Iceman's parents, was like, have you tried not being a mutant? That's an allegory of, have you tried not to be gay? And then the fact that mutants are oppressed the same way, you know, African Americans were back in the civil rights era of time period. So it's just like, you know, comic books are political. But again, I just think I still like to see the numbers. I want to see the full-fledged numbers of these comic book movies not doing so well. I want to see it before anyone comes at me with that stuff. I feel like the people want to debate me and say that I'm wrong about everything, and that's fine. I'm not saying I'm right about every single thing, but I still have not seen what they're talking about, besides outside of their circles. Outside the circle jerk, with for people who have a different viewpoint, it's slightly different. And I'm not saying every left-leaning, you know, left-leaning or anti-grifter channel is right about everything. I'm not saying none of that stuff. All I'm saying is that most of them will be logical. Most of them will be very logical and, you know, find the same exact stuff. It's weird that only one source of news, everything is the same story. How is it that different people are saying the same thing? Not everyone's gonna have the same memory. You know, not everyone's gonna have like the same memory, you know, when it comes to, you know, how things are. Why is it that we see a lot of thumbnails and copycat channels saying the same stuff? Realistically, human beings, there'll be a change to the story. Not to mention, I just find it very funny because Neurotic, you know, got a sneak preview of the Fantastic Four. If Disney is so evil and you don't want nothing to do with Disney for what they're doing, you think they're so wrong, why would you go to a sneak preview? It seems you really liked Fantastic Four. That's why this is why I turned into an anti-grifter, because I feel like this is just to make money. To lie about views that's not even really theirs. Their views are money. Now it's popular now to be a far-right person. I mean, look at the Sydney Sweeney incident already, with the blue jeans and everything. You know, it's shocked so much it's bought buzz. So become someone that you're really not. Say something that you're really not, just for money, and that's why this is what made me into an anti-grifter, you know, for sure. So, like, I don't believe that they really believe the stuff that they're saying. They just know, you know, you got dumb, low-level people that need people to think for them. Because let's be honest, they're not thinking for themselves. They need to be fed, you know, by the spoonful of what you think is true, because they don't know how to lead. They don't know how to think for themselves. So of course, they're gonna go into believing that stuff because they think you really believe. But realistically, it's just funny that Neurotic, in particular, Fantastic Four is bad. Pedro Pascal's bad. Disney is bad. I'm gonna go to a sneak preview to see this. Now, they don't just give out sneak preview tickets to anybody. Even if you go like to, you know, San Diego Comic-Con, they don't just give out free tickets. You know, it's got, you know, your algorithms gotta make them some capital. Meaning, just for you talking about Fantastic Four and you get a lot of views, that generates buzz. It generates so much buzz. It's not too hard to figure out what's really going on. But I just think that it's easy. And unfortunately, I used to like watching Star Wars Theory. But I gotta be honest, he's became that way too. Because again, it's really not even about right leaning, left leaning, woke, conservatism, or anything. It's about money. It's always been about money. This game that is being played on social media is about money. Manipulate people who need people to think for them, and then come up with some extreme far right stuff that's gonna piss someone off because it'll generate buzz. Believe in that, collect money from it. Why you do something different? It's a money game. It's just like the people who, it's like your homeboy who started having a crush on a Jehovah's Witness girl, and then only does the Jehovah's Witness thing and not celebrate holidays or that stuff only to get the girl's attention. And that's exactly what I feel these grifters are doing. That's exactly. They don't really believe the stuff that comes out of their mouth, or if they do, it doesn't sound sincere. Nothing's if the Fantastic Four First Steps is so woke, why a sneak preview? Why go see it before the public does? In fact, that supports it even more than our tickets, because only exclusive people get those rights. Wouldn't you want to use your exclusive rights for something else? And go back to the Superman, besides me watching the Superman, everything was like the comic book. Yeah, there was a small snippet about the Israel and Gaza thing. Small enough that, it didn't affect anything. So it's just very weird to me. I'm just saying, it's very weird to me that I'm still hearing all over social media, my TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, everything, that comic book movies are a dying breed. It's not a dying breed. It's not doing as very good as the Infinity War saga or the early, Zack Snyder stuff, because people like those stuff. Yeah, it's not doing as well, I will say that, but it's not, none of these companies are going bankrupt. And the numbers are at least decent enough that there's butts in the seats. There's butts in the seats for Superman. There's butts in the seats for Fantastic Four. Enough. Or they wouldn't even bother. Here's the thing, they wouldn't even bother putting out the extra popcorn bowl, extra merch stuff. They wouldn't bother to do that if they didn't think it was going to sell. And people bought the popcorn bowls. As a matter of fact, the popcorn bowls now for superhero movies, now that come out, are the third most scalped item next to Pokemon cards and Magic the Gathering cards. So even if they're not sitting in the theater to watch the stuff, they're still putting money in the pockets of these superhero films. So again, I want to know what the real numbers are. Show me the real numbers. Show me that these superhero films are dying. Show me. I want to see these grifters actually come up with something. Then it's woke. I want to see numbers. Show me numerology, bud. I need to see the numbers, bud. I'm not here for the political nonsense. I'm here for the numbers. Show me the numbers.